And good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I would be Glenn because it's Friday. That means he would be Stan the Fan Charles. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You powder donuts or still on the...
Not donuts. Donuts.
Just one. I said one. Yeah, powder donut. Absolutely.
Powder donut.
All right. So
Coffee.
So we're good.
Coffee.
So we're good. Everything's going to be all right today.
Oh, it's going to be
That's what I'm looking for.
Great day.
Griffin's here, of course, as well. Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Coming up on the program today, Terrin Vavra is off to a really hot start to spring training. I think he's hitting something like 545, if I remember correctly. Hopefully that continues.
I think it's got a good shot.
I'm in favor of that. But we'll check in down in Sarasota before Stan heads down, get some recommendations. He can tell us about what the weather looks like for you. And Terrin Vavra from the Orioles will join us here in a bit. Also coming up this morning, our friend Brad Jackson, former Ravens linebacker. We'll probably talk a little bit about what's going on, but he's got a new gig working with the Senior Bowl, so we're going to talk to him about that and some prospects that Ravens fans should keep in mind heading towards the NFL draft. Our buddy B-Jack, Brad Jackson, will join us a little bit later on. Stan, in the last 48 hours, we've gone from, well, it's a neat little thing that the NFLPA did and having guys fill out these report cards to, in Baltimore, oh my God, everything is burning. It's amazing how it's all happened so quickly.
I have a new take on how the Ravens can get the heat off of them, the organization over Lamar.
Okay.
I think they should have a rat infestation.
And then everybody will talk about that. Right. Yeah,
Mills
that's a hell of an idea.
And down at M&T Bank Stadium.
That is a hell of an idea.
I think M&T would probably love that,
Nah,
too.
not great, and the state is involved with that, so I don't think they'd allow it.
Jacksonville, they've got at their training facility and the stadium.
Well, and the Cardinals make you pay for your own food when you're working out at the facility. There's a lot going on here, man. There are bigger problems. The report card itself, obviously the score, we talked about it yesterday, the score was alarming for the strength staff, but again, the Ravens fired the strength coach.
Right.
So, you look and you say, well, everything should be fine, right? But then you see this string of former players that have things to say, and most notably, obviously, the tweet that we talked about yesterday from Rashad Bateman.
Right.
And all of a sudden, everything starts ballooning, and we start veering into the territory of what's going on over there. Because, for what it's worth, it is... And it was pointed out to me yesterday because I said I think the most likely scenario is Rashad Bateman is frustrated, got a little emotional in a tweet, and with the benefit of a couple of hours, will be like, "Yo, I'm."
And a call from his rep.
Yeah, this wasn't. I didn't need to do this, and that's essentially the way that it worked, right? A couple hours later, he was like, "My apologies," and the whole thing.
The hug and
but it's still un-Ravens like to have top players so publicly targeting, in this case, Eric DeCosta, but really Eric DeCosta by proxy, right? Because it was really targeting the things that Eric DeCosta was saying. Although, as been pointed out by a few people, it's kind of ironic. It's not like Eric DeCosta was suggesting that the wide receivers stink. He was just sort of saying
the production sucked.
The track record at wide receiver has not been good, and he would like to fix it, and all that sort of stuff. It was weird that was the tweet that got Rashad Bateman's gander, right? Like that. It's not like Eric DeCosta said, "Yeah, these guys really can't play," or "They've really let us down," or something like that. And again, I think Rashad Bateman is still much more a part of the solution than the problem. He's just dealt with injury. He says that's because of Steve Saunders and points out he was never injured in his life until he arrived in Baltimore and worked with this group of strength coaches. And
Didn't he have an injury coming in?
No,
he got college.
He was never hurt in college. He might have gotten.
I thought he got hurt. I thought when he came to the first camp, he was hurt.
He got hurt quickly. if I remember correctly. We'll double check on the date on that. I'm pretty sure
it was something that they knew when they drafted
it was a training camp practice. He suffered the groin injury.
Okay.
So,
that gets pretty tricky when you start targeting the strength coach because you pulled a groin muscle.
Yeah, August 10th, 2021. But what it can line up with was originally all of this started with Derek Wolfe. Derek Wolfe was the first person to publicly come out a couple years ago and target Steve Saunders and target the way the Ravens went about doing things and said they are trying to ramp things up entirely too quickly. And this is where it kind of comes to what is the bigger problem, right? Is a bigger problem? This was all unique to Steve Saunders. Mm-hmm. John Harbaugh knew there was a Steve Saunders problem, but as people point out, is very loyal and doesn't like firing people and was slow to recognize the issue.
How big a problem it was becoming in his locker room.
Or was Steve Saunders a reflection of the attitude and the personality that John Harbaugh wants? And we've seen at times he has pushed the envelope. The Ravens got penalized because he was trying to skirt rules about how much you practice. That is he just an old school kind of hard-ass guy that's frustrated that you can't have two-a-days any longer and frustrated about it and is on board with, we want you ramping up as quickly as you possibly can. When you arrive, there's no welcome in period. It's we're going balls to the wall from the moment that you get here because that's the way that I feel like things should be. Derek Wolfe was the first to say that part of this is inappropriate, but he didn't say it came from John Harbaugh. He pointed out Steve Saunders. I feel like in the last 24 hours, we're kind of at a crossroads for the Ravens to have, for some, Steve Bisciotti, and, as you talked about last week, Steve Bisciotti continues to sort of not be available and not really have anything to say, but I do think at some point he's going to have to step in and make sure that when they moved on from Steve Saunders, it wasn't because, and I forget, pull up the name, it's Elliott, I believe, is the name of the assistant strength coach who took over as strength coach, isn't just going to be a different messenger with the same message that's going to continue to cause problems. Because if that's the case, it appears to be a real issue within the locker room right now.
Yeah, it does.
If John Harbaugh is the one that's sort of pulling the strings, I don't think
Bateman sort of by proxy is insinuating it's an organizational thing, not just Eric with the strength coach.
Right.
He's saying, take care of us,
And if that, again, if the Ravens can say, well, we got rid of Steve Saunders, there's going to be a new day around here, then I think for the most part, reasonable people can say, hey, you probably waited a little bit too long to fix this problem, but okay, we can accept that it's fixed moving forward. I think the question is it fixed? Or are you just switching who the messenger is that's providing the same message?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, it's a bigger problem. To wit, in the last 24 hours, we've weirdly gone to a place where suddenly John Harbaugh is going to be fired in the middle of the offseason. That's not – it just does not work that way in the NFL. But I absolutely believe, and we can talk about this and tie it into the way that what they're dealing with otherwise, there is an angst. I said yesterday on Twitter, I have a lot of conversations with players. At no point have I gotten the sense there's any sort of like organizational upheaval. That there is, we want out, this place is a mess. We know the places that are messes, right? Like we understand them. It wasn't surprising that some teams graded low on everything. And it's not surprising at all that Washington graded low in absolutely everything in these report cards. They're a disaster of an organization. It's not surprising that Arizona graded low in just about everything in these report cards.
Including charging players.
So embarrassing. Every other team in football is like, please spend more time at the facility.
Right.
We don't want you out. You could be out there drag racing. You could be out there doing.
Right.
We want you to be here. Please spend as much time as you possibly can here. We'll give you food. We'll give you all these things. Just be in the building as much as you possibly can. The Cardinals are like, get the F out. We get out. Go do whatever you want to do. You're not going to be here. We don't want you here. I've never gotten the sense that there was any sort of mess that the Ravens were dealing with. But the strength coach thing, I think it's fair to use the word toxic. Like, it's clearly toxic. Overwhelmingly, it's a problem. And overwhelmingly, when we talk about the incredible bad luck the Ravens have had from an injury standpoint, it's abundantly clear they blame one thing for that. They blame it on the strength coach. So I think it's incumbent upon John Harbaugh to recognize that and to say, we can't just keep doing things the same way around here. We have to completely change the method by which we do things.
I mean, I'm not saying either of us have a list of injuries that the Ravens have had,
right.
But like the Bateman injury in the game.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that one this season, yes.
Right.
Was,
how about Gus Edwards and
J.K.
Dobbins? They were hurt in game. I mean, is there something that the strength? I don't understand look. I don't know all the reasons they're saying this, but if they're saying that players are getting hurt in games because of the strength and conditioning coach, I don't understand how that's possible.
Well, if you go to Derek Wolf's point, I guess, is that in training camp in August, they're going 110% from the get-go, and that's why maybe they're ramping it up too fast, and that's why J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards suffer those devastating early season injuries. That was, 2 years ago?
I mean, ramping up in that they shouldn't have been in the games?
Somebody, maybe we should try calling him this morning. Our friend Kadri Ismail, of course, now this is what he does now for a living, is strength and conditioning type of stuff. More in the training capacity up in Bel Air.
Right. And
he's talked about this a number of times. A former Raven, Carl Davis, was one of the players that came out. He's now with the New England, or he was this season with the New England Patriots. And he responded, Matt Judon, okay, let me go. There's many layers to this.
Okay.
Former Ravens linebacker Bam Bradley, 5 months post-ACL, unsuccessfully doing the same leg workouts as people with healthy knees, never sits right with me. Ruined me. That he's saying that when I was being forced to try to do workouts that I wasn't ready to do coming off an ACL surgery, that prevented me from ever being able to get back onto a field. Matthew Judon quote tweeted it and said, Ben told them to fire him. Like, he's coming out and saying, I've been telling them for some time they need to get rid of this guy. Then
who's Ben?
No, Ben, B-E-E-N. I've been telling them. It's just the way that, Carl Davis responds by saying, crazy part is that dog went and said I wasn't working hard and I was being rebellious. I'm like, I'm not trying to get hurt again. He's talking about his own rehab from an injury. Kadri responded by saying, the sad part in all of this, the strength and conditioning community at large is a Steve Saunders mindset. They give you training for big muscles that are counter to what you actually do on the field, setting you up for failure and to be injury prone. The argument is what the strength coach has been telling them to do is not going to be what's going to help them when they actually get on the football field. They're just trying to create, this sort of tough guy mentality, but it's not exactly what's going to happen on the football field. And if your muscles aren't trained for the actual work you're going to do on a football field, you're more likely to become injury prone even during the course of a football game. So even if the injury isn't specifically unique to during training, right, you end up finding yourself potentially getting hurt in a situation like this.
It sounds like the mindset then is very similar to the strength and conditioning coach under DJ Durkin. Now, DJ Durkin's strength and conditioning...
he was a little bit more psychopathic, I guess.
No, but I mean, I'm not talking about... Yeah. It's just this tough guy mentality.
Yes.
That you're a wimp or, the P word.
Right.
If you don't do what we say you should be able to do.
Correct. And instead of focusing on your unique situation, that was one of the things in the report card. I said, we didn't feel like...
individualized
there was no
care.
Individual strength plan. It was just go do this stuff.
Right.
And as these multiple players are kind of pointing out, that didn't make sense for them in the situation that they were in. And again,
you never heard this with Tessendorf?
I've never heard this with anyone.
With Jeff Friday?
I mean, I've never. This is the first time.
Tessendorf was a trainer.
Right. Bill Tessendorf. Right.
Jeff Friday, though, was a strength and conditioning
coach. Curtis Schultz famously was a strength coach around here for a long time.
Got Tim Hasselbeck on the line. Would you like to
Tim Hasselbeck checked in this morning.
Yes.
Well, what the heck? I'd love to talk to Tim Hasselbeck for a couple of minutes. Why not? Tim Hasselbeck thinks the Ravens should use the non-exclusive tag on Lamar Jackson, and we were trying to track him down earlier in the week. Tim Hasselbeck, once upon a time, was in Baltimore, of course, hanging out with the Ravens. That's a lovely, pleasant surprise from ESPN. Tim Hasselbeck is joining us here this morning. Tim, good morning. It's Glenn Clark, Stan the Fan Charles in Baltimore. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, man, before we get to what you had to say about the tag, if I could, I'm sure you've heard about all this drama related to the strength coach situation in Baltimore and the number of players, including Rashad Bateman, who have come out very strongly. Does it worry you at all that apparently this has been a feeling that has existed and been prevalent for years, and yet the Ravens didn't do anything about it until this offseason?
Yeah, look, I think that, some of the stuff that's come out with, whether it's been strength coaches, whether it's been food at a team's facility, whether it's, a training staff and the kind of openness and honesty of a training staff, I feel like those things in general in the National Football League have been going on for a really, really long time. And, obviously with what the NFLPA is doing now, it's trying to shed some light on that stuff. So I would just say based on, the various teams that I was a part of, there are typically issues everywhere, and they're typically not the same issues. Some places love the strength coach. Some places, despise them. Some places, guys love the training staff and trust them. Other places they don't. I feel like in some ways it's nothing new. This is just more of a, kind of shedding light on how the current players feel about the current situation with their clubs.
Does it reflect on a head coach if something and it's coming out hot and heavy? Does it reflect on John Harbaugh specifically at all? If he was just ignoring it and saying, this is my guy, deal with it. Do we have to have a conversation about, look, John Harbaugh is a highly successful coach who has won a lot, and I'm not trying to suggest this means that, he's unqualified to be a coach or something like that, but it just seems like I can't completely dismiss the role that John Harbaugh plays when there was a real issue going on here.
So anytime you have a head coach that has accomplished a lot and has a lot of control and say, the trail is always going to lead back there. Just like take it away from Harbaugh for a second and just, to probably take some of the emotion out of it for maybe some of your listeners. Like look at the way people responded to the training staff in Kansas City. Like, is Andy Reid a heck of a football coach? Absolutely. Is Andy Reid bring his own people to Kansas City from Philadelphia? Yes, he did. And if the players in Kansas City are unhappy with that training staff that Andy brought with him, there's no doubt that it should lead back to Andy. So, yeah, of course it should end up leading back to John Harbaugh.
It's fair. I think that's very fair. Tim Hasselbeck is with us here on GCR. Tim, we saw you the other day on NFL Live suggest the Ravens should let Lamar Jackson try to find out what his market is by working under the non-exclusive tag. Of course, the benefit would be it would cost you about $10 million less if that's the tag he plays on. The problem would be that if he finds a deal that he likes, you would only get 2 first-round picks in return. It sounds like what you're saying is you don't think that the market is there for Lamar Jackson and he'll get his feelings hurt if he goes and does that.
Well, no, I mean, part of it is this, too. Like, not only, Baltimore still would have the chance to match it.
Sure.
Right? Like, that. So, like, that's the other side of it. And I do feel like sometimes, like, people forget that part of it. It's like, let's say, for example, that, somebody is willing to give him this guaranteed deal, fully guaranteed deal that's going to put him in the Deshaun Watson range of guaranteed money. Okay? Well, Baltimore can then say, look, if that team's able to digest that and give up 2 first-rounders, well, let's look at it and see if we can digest that as well. Sure. And maybe they can. So I just think this. Lamar Jackson is saying, hey, look, and I think there's obviously some different reporting on this. And, it kind of all depends on I guess, what you want to take at its value. But, I'm sure there's probably some range where you and I could say, look, it's probably fair to say he's in this range. Kyler Murray received about $190 million guaranteed, right? Deshaun Watson, $230 million guaranteed. And then you're going to have to consider, the length of a contract. So, what do we think Lamar would say yes to? Is Lamar saying yes to, a 5-year, $200 million deal fully guaranteed? Is he saying yes to that?
Maybe. I mean, we don't know, but maybe.
So listen, you think that's a maybe. Tell me, And I think he'd be crazy not to take that. But here's what I would say.
I hear you.
Yeah, especially after the last two seasons. Yeah.
So here's what I would say about it. Tell me who the team is that is going to give him that contract.
So I have, for what it's worth, in the little bit of reporting that I've done, I have been told the Falcons are obsessed with the idea of it and would be willing to pay almost any price because they see the opportunity there. It's, there's a unique thing with Lamar in that town, it being the place where Michael Vick succeeded so badly, and the division being as bad as it is at the quarterback position. In the bit of reporting I've done, I've been told there's an obsession with the Falcons and the idea of Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Yeah, and listen, in the Atlanta Falcons, we're in on the Deshaun Watson situation.
Right.
So absolutely, the Atlanta Falcons might love Lamar Jackson, but as soon as they knew what the money was on Deshaun, they were out. And so, you got to think back to that time. That time, Matt Ryan was still an Atlanta Falcon when he extended his bonus. Basically, they said to Matt Ryan, "Look, we're going to go look at, pursuing Deshaun Watson. You're going to will you defer your bonus?" He deferred his bonus, and that gave Matt Ryan a chance to go see what else was out there. He found the Colts that were out there and all that stuff. But as soon as Atlanta figured out what it was going to cost, they're like, "No, we're not doing that." So I don't know why they would end up doing it for Lamar. And I get it. People are going to compare, well, listen, Lamar off field significantly better than the situation Deshaun Watson off the field. I get that, but just even as a player, you could argue that they're somewhat comparable players, in terms of things that they've accomplished in the league. And I think Lamar is a significantly better runner. Deshaun is a significantly better passer. So say they will sign him to that deal. Would you be okay with the Ravens signing him to that deal?
I think this is where Stan and I would split. I would. I don't think that Stan would. I think the two of us would have two different opinions.
I have no problem with him getting what he wants to get. I just sort of think the whole thing is clouding up the ability to build a team. So I just think it's become a major, major distraction for them. But Tim, here's
what I would say about it, though. Here's what I'd say about it. If the goal for Lamar is to get, as much guaranteed money as he can, okay?
Right. Then
the non-exclusive tag actually helps Lamar because he can go find out what somebody else is willing to fully guarantee him. And if the goal for the Ravens is to get Lamar Jackson under contract long-term and on a market value deal, then this actually helps them as well.
Yeah, it helps to get the grayness out of it and make it black or white, whether you can afford them or not. Tim, I wanted to move to a slightly different topic, and that is I can't recall that we've ever had a player of this level of talent play a season with the franchise tag at quarterback. Has it ever happened before? And there seems to be so much assumptiveness that once he were tagged, be it exclusive or non-exclusive, that it's obvious they're going to trade him once he's tagged. Do we have any history at all?
Dak Prescott would be the one, right?
Dak's probably the best player of the group at the position that I can remember being tagged.
So I had a question for you.
So here's what I would say about this, though, in the tag and how everybody looked at the tag like it's some awful thing.
Right.
Kirk Cousins played through the tag. Okay. There was a 3-year stretch where Kirk Cousins, who nobody has ever believed was one of the 5-10 best players in the NFL, Kirk Cousins made more money than any other player over a 3-year stretch in the entire National Football League.
Interesting.
Dak Prescott, playing on the tag, had a stretch, and no one's ever thought Dak Prescott is one of the 3 or 5 best players in the National Football League. Dak Prescott more money than any other player over a 3-year stretch than any other NFL player during that time. The tag is not some horrendous thing. Like, I get
Right.
it. It's not giving you long-term security and all of that. But what it does is when you play on the tag, you make a lot of money in the short term. If they decide to tag you again, it's another opportunity to make a lot of money in the short term. So now you've made a massive amount of money. It's prohibitive to tag you a third time.
Right.
And so now you have all the leverage. And so what gets me sometimes is these players, and I'm all for players making as much money as possible, who think they have all kinds of leverage when the tag is still an option. Like, that's the part of it. Like, truthfully, if you're Baltimore and you're willing to guarantee him,
43 million.
over 100 or say 150 million over 5 years.
Right.
What if you tagged him again? Now you've been on the hook. Now you just have him for 2 years, call it $80 million. Like,
Closer to
now
90.
you may
probably.
lose him after that, or 90, whatever. 2 years, 90 million, sure. But listen, you're not on the hook for the other 100.
I had one more question about this, and I'm not an investigative reporter or, I don't go out on stories. But the idea of insuring a player, I was wondering, is there anything that would prohibit the Ravens on the 1 year exclusive tag where he'd make $44 million for taking out an insurance policy that would protect him if he were hurt devastatingly?
Well, I mean, he can do that for sure.
He can.
There's
but what about the club doing it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the club doing it. I don't know what the benefit for the club would be in doing that.
Yeah, to try to get him to show up and be there for the off season.
More buy-in.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen on this, and in terms of trying to get him to show up and hold out, and I get that it can ruin your season and all of that stuff. I think a lot of times we talk about players as if they've all made the same money, and the reality of it is, like, that's not how it works. Everybody's situation is different. And so when guys decide to hold out, when guys decide to do all that stuff, you got to look at their scenario. Lamar Jackson has made $32.7 million playing football. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of money to everybody that's listening and all that. And it is a lot of money, $32.7 million. But it's taken him 5 seasons to make that. And so because of the collective bargaining agreement, because of the fine schedule, like, is it good business to be scheduled to make around $40 million in 1 year and then essentially be a free agent or have an opportunity to make more than that the next year to not play on it? That's more money in one season than you've made over the last 5. So, like, look, and here's the thing. I think the Ravens would much rather like to have him on a long-term deal than have him play on the tag.
Yeah.
I just think that they want to make sure that it's good for the team and for the player. And listen, all of this is without, like, discussing, like, what you actually may feel about, the long-term prospects of him as a player, and his health and his development and all of those things. So I just think, like, look, it's hard. And look, Dak Prescott did it. Dak Prescott, stared walking away from life-changing money to play on the tag, coming off the season. I think he had probably made at that point, roughly $5 to $7 million playing.
No question.
So I'm not saying guys won't do it, but, like, Dak wasn't going to hold out. I mean, he was going to show up.
No.
He hadn't made any real money yet.
No doubt. Hey, Tim, we are up against a break. I can't thank you enough for taking some time for us this morning. I know it's at TT Hasselbeck on Twitter. Really appreciate doing this. We'd love to do this again down the road,
Tim.
man.
See you guys.
Tim Hasselbeck, former Raven and ESPN analyst, checking in with us this morning with some good insight. By the way, Stan, I did poke around on that idea.
Yeah.
Since the last time you talked. What I was told from a league source was, I'm not actually sure that it's a rule, but be certain that if they attempted to, they would be told they couldn't. Because
that ownership would be told.
And what I was told was that essentially you would create a scenario where you could just always go on a series of 1-year deals and contracts wouldn't matter because you could just say, well, we're always going to ensure your.
Well, the difference is the cost of it is not insignificant.
No debate about that.
Yeah.
But what I was told was that the league would make sure, even if for some reason it's not written in as a when I asked my source,
sense.
they said even if it's not written as a rule, the league would make sure that the owners were told you couldn't do that.
Okay.
So I did do a little bit of work on that this week because it did.
Okay.
I filed it away. I meant to tell you that when I
Okay.
talked about it. That was the answer I got. So I can't tell you definitively it's a rule. Just they wouldn't be allowed to, is what I was told. What you are allowed to do is sign up at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. With DraftKings, bet $5, get $200 worth of free bets right now. PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Stan, let's switch gears. Let's head down to Sarasota, where this man is ripping the cover off the ball to start spring training. He is red hot. He is Terrin Vavra of your Baltimore Orioles, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Terrin, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's great to catch up with you again, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Dude, what's in the water down there right now? Like, what's going? How do we keep this up for the next 6 months?
Yeah, I think it's been off to a good start. We got a great group here that it's a lot of fun to be around. And I think just kind of a lot of excitement going into this year. So I think that's just been kind of the key for a lot of us starting out.
Terrin, you're hitting 545. Hang on, you're really underselling this. You're hitting 545. Are you a superstitious type? Is there anything that you've been doing this week that you say like, well, I got to make sure I keep having Fruity Pebbles for breakfast or something like that?
No, not quite. I mean, you kind of realize in pro ball you do it every day. There's those superstitions are kind of hard to keep up, especially when you look at over the course of 6, 7, 8 months. So no, just been trying to see the ball, hit the ball, and try to get myself on base and just get back into the swing of things.
Terrin, the one thing I can do for you is not get you on my fantasy team.
Yeah, it'll help. I promise
that would
you.
help.
It would ruin everything. Would be ruined in that moment.
Yeah.
If
Hey,
Stan did that.
I'm wondering, a player of your standing, are you looking around and saying, I don't see a regular spot for me, but I'm versatile enough to carve out a regular place for yourself, but it's playing a lot of different positions. Is that how you sort of see yourself at this point in your career with this ball club right now?
Yeah, I think, we have a ton of guys that are pretty dang good, and, cracking the lineup is definitely, tough. So just the more positions I can play, the more I can just put myself in a situation where I can get in the lineup and help out both, not only just offensively, but defensively as well, and be able to play a solid defense wherever position I'm at. I think, that's something that goes a long way in this game, and I think there's a place for that. And, I think it can really help teams win. So, I think that is kind of something that I'm learning to try to embrace. It can be, this time of year when you're trying to learn a bunch of different positions, it can be, a lot, but something I'm, welcome to. And, I like the challenge. I like the idea that, I'm doing more so I can continue to help this team win.
And just a quick follow-up, is that something that Brandon and you have discussed? Is he transparent in his communication with you?
Yeah, the coaching staff has been great. They've kind of, spelled it out that, I need to show that I can, be able to play anywhere. And, it's matchups are big in today's game. And, if I can off in the lineup, whether it's playing third base, second base, outfield, wherever it is, then it put their team in a good chance to win if the matchup's right.
You're probably not going to be called upon to pitch because they changed the rules in baseball. Probably won't be the option anymore. Terrin Vavra with us here on GCR. Hey, Terrin, what did it mean to you to be a part of that last season? For your first taste, a lot of guys come up and their first taste of Major League Baseball is meaningless, right? Like they show up and nobody's at the ballpark and, yes, it's the big leagues, but it's not the same. What did that mean for you to be a part of that, and how much did it maybe intensify your desire to be a part of this thing moving forward that clearly is building in Baltimore?
Yeah, I think the excitement just in the community and even in the locker room was just super awesome to see. You know, when you're in the minor leagues and you're coming up, there's not always that level of excitement. You know, you get to play with some good players along the way, but ultimately, when you get to this stage and feel that excitement, kind of all, you know, culminates, and it's pretty cool. So that was something that I'm very grateful, you know, looking back on, and I think you know, will be very helpful in the future.
I got two quick questions, and they're not about Terrin Vavra. One is Tyler Nevin. You were traded with him from the Rockies to the Orioles. I guess you're aware of how well he's playing, given an opportunity in Detroit.
He went deep yesterday.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, is he somebody that you've got pretty good faith in, that he's going to make the most of his opportunity in Detroit?
Yeah, absolutely. Nev is, you know, he's the definition of a ball player. He's going to compete his rear end off, and you know, he's going to take good at bats and play solid defense, and, you know, do all the right things. So I think that Nev's got a bright future ahead of him, and you know, unfortunately, I'm not playing with him, but I think that, you know, he's going to go out and do whatever he can to make the most of his new opportunity.
And the second question I had for you is, I didn't really look at the box score. I know you played yesterday, playing behind Grayson Rodriguez. You're the first player I've really been able to talk to about him. Give me a scouting report on him and how good he can be.
I think kind of his ceiling is, you know, through the roof. He's not afraid to challenge guys. I think that's the most exciting thing, to play defense behind him, because he doesn't, you know, waste too many pitches. Whether it's, you know, Miguel Cabrera yesterday in the minor leagues, he'll challenge guys, and that's really exciting to be behind. And you know, he works good, works quick, throws all of his pitches for strikes, and you know, he's just so talented, and it's fun to play behind.
I mean, the numbers, the velocity, we're getting really excited about it here, Terrin, as you can imagine. Another couple of minutes here with Terrin Vavra from the Orioles. Terrin, you became a father in the last year. Can you take me through, you know, how what you expected has, you know, how has the reality compared to your expectations, and in a way, does it give you a new view, a new approach to baseball now as a dad and thinking about who it is that you're playing for?
Yeah, I think you know, coming home this offseason and really getting to spend time as, you know, a father rather than, you know, a baseball player. You know, for the first few weeks of her life, I was away from her, and that was pretty challenging, trying to, you know, understand your role through FaceTime was a little different. So when I got home, you know, that was a big adjustment and something that, you know, those opportunities, and they're here with me now, and getting to come home and you know, see my wife and my daughter at the end of the day is, you know, I'm so fortunate for, and something that I'll, you know, be forever grateful for as long as they're, you know, with me, because I know what it was like, you know, trying to take on that role, you know, from across the country. So definitely glad to have them here, and it definitely makes you appreciate, you know, your outlook on, you know, an 0 for 4.
Hey, Terrin, one of the things I most appreciate about you watching your at-bats is you don't take them lightly. In other words, it's not like just get up there and swing at the first pitch, swing at the second pitch. You really make an attempt every at-bat I see you to work the at-bat to your favor. Can you talk a little bit about where, I know you're a coach's son, where that comes from, the on-base ability that is part of your game?
Yeah, I think ultimately just trying to get the pitch you're looking for. You know, it's easy to go up there and kind of get in swing mode, but you really kind of shrinking the plate a little bit and trying to get the pitch you're looking to drive and you know, accomplish your goal of going up there with. The more you focus on that and help the pitcher come to you rather than you go to them. So. And I think that's just kind of always been the way I've looked at it, and I think it's something that, you know, the more pitches you see, the more feel you have with that. So something I'm still getting better with. I'm not perfect by any means, but it is something that, you know, I like to build off of.
All right, Terrin, I have to know, everybody is freaking out about the new rules this year. Everybody's freaking out about the pitch clock. Everybody's freaking out about what has been the reality for you? Like, is it at all any different for you making sure you step in the box? Is to you the game as different as a lot of people are making it out to be because of the number of new rules this season?
I don't think so. I think that, ultimately this is, the best for the game, best for the viewer experience. It does change your routine in between pitches. You kind of have to be, a little bit more conscious of that clock. But once you get kind of used to it, I think it just becomes part of your new routine. So I think right away that's kind of expected for people to kind of be up in arms a little bit with it and, have their opinions. But I think ultimately it'll be something that kind of becomes normal and, people will learn to appreciate.
Is it easier to learn multiple positions when you're in a post-shift level of baseball and you don't necessarily have to be in like 1,000 different spots on the field at all times?
Yeah, I think it does matter, especially, playing those corner positions first. You have to go into cuts and relays and, you might be in, if the shifts were allowed, you might be halfway across the field and be obligated to get to a completely different spot. So I think it does matter a little bit, but ultimately you play the game enough, you kind of learn to see where everyone is on the field, and you just, when you're playing that position, you got to do your best to find that spot.
And then my last one for you, Terrin, I'm wondering what the conversations are like. Like, I'm sure you imagine back home, there is an awful lot of excitement about what you guys are capable of accomplishing and taking that sort of next step as a team. We talk about it openly, the idea of the Orioles being a playoff team this year. Do you guys have those types of conversations right now, or is that too big picture, too far down the road? You just got to keep thinking about, day in, day out.
No, the reason we're here is to win a World Series. I think that the reason they brought this group here is, to that ultimate goal. And I think it'd be kind of naive of us not to expect that level of play. So, there is real, hopes and aspirations to do that. We know that we're young and we got a lot of learning and developing to do, but ultimately we wouldn't be playing this game if we didn't think we could to accomplish that. So that's what we're here to do, and that's kind of the goal each and every day we show at the park is win the day and put us into a good position to do that.
I love that. Love everything about that. All right, Stan's headed down to Sarasota next week. Give him one recommendation. Give him one restaurant he should check out. Give him one something he should do. I know you guys don't get a lot of time to actually visit town, but give him something for when he heads down next week.
It's just not the topless bars.
Right. I don't think Terrin's in those.
Yeah. No. I can tell you our favorite spot between me, Rutch, Stowers, Gunner. I think our favorite spot is a place called Bavaro, so you have to check that out. It's an Italian spot, we're frequent visitors there. So,
all right.
Please tell me that you guys, particularly, no offense, but particularly Adley, nobody has to pay for a meal down there, right? Everybody's taking care of those, aren't they?
We take care of each other.
All right.
Yeah, we'll take turns.
Terrin, everybody can give him a follow on Twitter at Terrin Vavra 2. What about on Instagram? Are you on there?
I think it's the same thing.
All right, give him a follow in those places. Terrin, best of luck this season, man. Really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
All right, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Terrin Vavra with us here on GCR. And, of course, as he says, the goal is to win a World Series. If you want to get ahead of that, you can go right now to birdlandsports.com, and you can get your 2023 World Series champion T-shirt, which is available right there. You see it. Go to birdlandsports.com. Other great T-shirt designs like the birds in the style of the wire font. Which one did you take last week? You took
I took something about 1983.
Want to party like it's 1983.
Yeah,
exactly right. I dig that one as well. Of course, the birds are coming T-shirt like Omar and the Hillbilly Hayes. Very popular designs. For Orioles fans, by Orioles fans, birdlandsports.com. Check that out today. All right, a lot to do. Appreciate both Tim Hasselbeck and
great stuff.
Terrin Vavra joining us. When we come back in, I want to just dip a little bit more into all the conversation from yesterday and sort of sort through more of that. Plus, Brad Jackson's going to join us early in the 11 a.m. hour. That's all on the way. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Stan the Fan Charles in studio.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19 and want to start a new career path? Look no further than CCBC. Starting in March, CCBC offers short-term career training programs like real estate sales. And the best part, funding is available for those who qualify. Real estate sales is a lucrative career that can provide a stable income and flexibility. With CCBC's real estate sales program, you'll learn everything you need to know to get started in this exciting field. Call us at 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu to learn more. CCBC Real Estate Sales. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
Back in here on GCR. Remember, gambling can be fun, but you should set a limit and stay within it. Remember, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 for free confidential services or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org. Stan, only because we just talked about it, I'm going to go a little out of order. Brad Jackson's scheduled to join us in about 10 minutes. Let's take these 10 minutes. I just brought it up with Terrin Vavra. We saw it last weekend, a lot of hullabaloo about the pitch clock and particularly the situation in the Red Sox-Braves game where they went ahead and called for the third strike on because the batter, and I apologize, I've already forgotten the name, wasn't in the box in time.
Right.
The opinion that I talked to Steve Johnson about this, talked to a few people, that you want it to be a rule and you have to enforce it and order it to be a rule. But you don't really want it to end up affecting a game. You don't really want this to end up becoming something that creates a storyline in a regular season game. I have heard suggestions like maybe you tinker with this and like on the third violation, that's when you end up penalizing them. what do you make of all of it?
When I was driving in, I was listening to Jim Bowden's on the morning show today with Dan. What's his name? Dan Grassi. I never. Steve. He's sitting in for Steve Phillips.
Oh.
Dan Graziano.
Oh, Dan Graziano. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
So he's sitting in with him, and they were talking about this, and Bowden says, "Look," he goes, "the vast majority of players that I talk to, and executives and people that just work in front offices are ecstatic about these rules, that they are really going to take off 25 or 30 minutes of sort of dead time in a lot of games. I mean, you're still going to get outliers, games that last 3:15, 3:30.
Because guys, foul off 12 pitches and are at bat or something.
But so far, we are seeing an uptick offensively from the shift rule, and I gotta take that in stride because you're also getting a lot of second string, third string pitchers.
That's also true, yes.
But that this thing is not that big a deal to the players. They're going to get it. They're going to get it quick. And he then complimented. He says, "I think the umpires are doing it the way you have to do it. If it's going to be serious, you got to set the tone."
But do you worry about it becoming like? Look, this is extreme, but the scenario is it's opening day. You got a packed stadium. Adley Rutschman's up with the bases loaded in a 5-4 game in the 9th inning. And
it's really going to be on the ball players. I mean, the ball players, the on deck guy, going, "Hey, it's." Right. You're at 5. I mean, it's going to take some understanding of players of what's going on, and, it's going to be a new day. But I don't think we'll get many of those calls like that.
I think there will also be, once you get into real games, a bit of a, hey, give them a second. So one of the things that we found out was that they're going to move the pitch clock out of vision for the broadcast once the regular season starts. And the comparison that was made was, hey, in the NFL, we regularly have these things pop up where you look and it looks like a play is on 0 and a team snaps the ball and they say, well, we give a second of leniency for the official to notice the clock, and that's the way that it works.
I will say that the bothersome thing for me is how the mechanism is going to be in place for the pitcher to kind of be able to see it, but not the fans be able to necessarily see it on every single pitch, because it feels like now you're not playing baseball, you're playing rush ball, that everything's rushed, everything's on a clock. And the beautiful part of baseball, if you go back to Roger Angel's the summer game, was that there is no clock in baseball. Well, now there's clocks on a lot of things.
Do you think that if it does alter a big situation, they would be interested in changing things a little bit? I made the comparison, Stan, to the end of the Super Bowl, but what I said was, hey, look, at the end of the Super Bowl, you can be as mad at the players decide at the end of the Super Bowl. The Chiefs designed a great play to get a receiver open. Mm-hmm. James Bradbury got beat, and he grabbed.
Right.
Like, you can be mad because you don't want it to be a flag, but like the players decided it. James Bradbury knew exactly what he was doing in that moment. He was beat, and he grabbed, hoping he could get away with it. He didn't. That's the end of the game. This would be different because you could say, well, hey, the player decided it by not getting to the box on time, but it's not a baseball play, right? Like, it's not an outcome type of play.
Yeah, it's new for everybody right now. I mean, I just think I find
because I agree that I like the spirit of the rule. That part, I think it needs to be a rule, and I think that it is done for good reason.
Right.
To say we need to make the product on the whole more palatable for the greater number of people that we can. Baseball fans would tell you, I wasn't really all that concerned about it. It was fine for me.
Right.
But for a dad that wants to take their kids to a game, now you're telling me, hey, if the game starts at 6:30 and there's a chance that it could be over in 2.5 hours, maybe I could take my kids out to a game on a Tuesday night, something like that.
Yeah, I think you gotta, right from the get-go, you gotta, especially that's the beauty of spring training, is the outcomes. That game was going to most likely end as a tie anyway, and they stopped ties after 9 innings, pretty much.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. I'm not gonna.
Here's an interesting thing for me. I've been preaching for about 4 or 5 years about the pitch clock.
Yes.
The electronic umpire.
Oh, yeah,
robo
umpires.
Robo umpire. and how much faster I think that's going to make the game. I wonder if in 2 years, if that's instituted,
That they don't feel the need for the pitch clock any longer?
that they'll say, now we've overfixed things because games are 150
right,
and fans don't, it's too rushed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if in 3 or 4 years we aren't sort of easing the pitch clock by saying, hey, this other thing, because that's been my take on this, is that the robo umpire will speed the games up by 15 or 20 minutes.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that, although,
I don't have any hard data. I just I
Right.
observe how much it's now. Look, this thing now, they may say, you know what, there is no need for robo umpire because the game is sped up so much. But that was never the intention of the robo umpires, to speed up games.
It was just to get the
was
calls
just to
right.
get the calls right, which
Right.
I'm all in favor of.
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of that as well.
It's not getting them right; it's getting them consistent, where hitter and pitcher know what's going to be a strike night in and night out.
What did you make of the Orioles sending Adley Rutschman on the road with Grayson yesterday? What did you make of that?
I didn't even pay attention that it was a road game. It's clear that they want their best catcher to get used to catching him again. They have a relationship already, but I think they feel, hey, this is such an important relationship that we want it to go the right way.
Okay, and that's the sense that I
Yeah.
got as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of, I don't know, in a way.
Where did they play yesterday? In Lakeland?
Yes, correct,
Yeah.
in Lakeland, where the
It's
Tigers.
not a short little, it's probably
No,
an hour and 20
Typically,
minutes.
you would think that normally, for those that don't know, the way that it works in spring training is your guys that are your guys, you don't feel the need to send them on the road. You send a B squad on the road.
And you might include one regular
right, yeah,
or
maybe.
two regulars, but
Something
not
like that.
6 or 7.
Typically, you send a B. The fact that it was specifically Adley Rutschman that they sent on the road with Grayson Rodriguez pitching, to me, was a statement about Grayson Rodriguez is so important to us, is such an important part of this puzzle that we're not even going to mess
Is he
around.
more important than Lamar Jackson is to the Ravens?
No, boy, you're really. This is a guy. I don't think so, but
I don't think so
but
either.
you could make an argument. There's a comparability to, if this is going to work, that you need to have this person. I don't know, but he's so important to us, and we know how important he is. That even on the second day of March, we're not going to mess around with Grayson Rodriguez working with another catcher.
Right.
It's so important to us, and really, it came off like it's so important to us that he be ready now.
Yeah.
That he's got to be ready to go for when he's on a mound.
The idea, the game plan is to have him start at the big league level.
Correct.
No question about it.
And we think it's critical to our success this season that Grayson Rodriguez be ready to go, that there's not a easing in process, that he is ready when we get to that date. And so that felt.
Do we have a minute or
Yeah, I can give you 2 minutes, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one thing, because I'm working on my baseball power rankings.
Yes.
The Dodgers, it's really interesting. I intuitively, because they didn't sign Turner, Justin Turner, or Trey Turner.
You were kind of down on Gavin Lux, right?
I was down on his ability to play shortstop every day in the major leagues. But now, I just heard today, I know he's out for the season now, but they said, well, Miguel Rojas is not going to play for Team Venezuela. He's decided to stay back with the Dodgers because he's going to be the everyday shortstop. And they said they got this guy, so they got a rookie at second base, Miguel Vargas, who's supposed to be a pretty good, real good player. But they had a guy that I don't think really was a shortstop at short. Now they got a guy who can't hit at short. But you know who's playing third base instead of old reliable Justin Turner? Max Muncy is going to play third base.
Really?
And I don't see him. I see that being fraught. So suddenly you got an infield.
Right.
Of,
two rookies.
A
first baseman playing third base.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I don't think that sounds palatable at all.
What did you think of, since the last time we talked, Manny Machado got his contract from the Padres. What did you think about how that all played out?
Good for him, and clearly any of us that were sort of critical of him bringing it up right away, he handled his business, I wish we could get the Lamar Jackson signing.
Yeah, right.
That
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
God, it would be nice.
Yeah.
Want a deal? Okay, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Great. Obviously, it's not the salary cap, of course, being the
yeah.
the issue.
All kinds of differences.
Correct. Makes a huge difference
but
there.
Look, Peter Seidler, the owner of the main guy as spokesperson and owner of the Padres, wanted to get that deal done. And he said so, and they went out and got it done.
Done deal. And look, it's got to be an exciting time to be a Padres fan. Will it guarantee that they win a World Series? Nope. Not at all. Just not the way the baseball works.
But they've got a manager that makes it a better possibility.
You and I share an affinity for the man. You and I share a
Melvin
strong affinity. I had a little bit of time with him in Arizona and was
impressed,
overwhelmed by how remarkable I found Bob Melvin to be. I think the world of Bob Melvin, and I do agree with you. I think that makes a significant difference for the Padres' chances going into this year. All right, winding down hour number 1 of today's show. Don't forget, if you haven't picked up the print issue of Press Box yet, go get it right now. Gunnar Henderson's on the cover. Great story from Luke Jackson about his meteoric rise. A lot of local lacrosse content in there, meeting players from around the state. It's available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box, and you can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Stan, I've known this man. I think we both known this man for a very long time.
I've known him a long time.
Very long time. I did not.
Don't like him much.
Oh man, you should. I've got some. I actually have some stories about this guy. I didn't know he had a new job. I did not know that he was working as a scout with the Senior Bowl now, which is really cool. He is a World Series, Super Bowl champion, of course, former Baltimore Ravens linebacker. He is our friend B-Jack, Mr. Brad Jackson, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Brad, it's Glenn Clark, Stan the Fan Charles. Great to catch up with you, brother. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Good to hear from you both, and glad you guys are still doing well.
Hey man, great to hear your voice.
Good to hear your voice, Brad.
Dude, when did you get hooked up with this? I had no idea that you were doing this, man. Give me the background.
Yeah, well, I like to stay below the radar. So every year since I retired, going back to 2006, my first year with Coach Tony Dungy was in the Colts Super Bowl year. I had done an internship during the summer. And so I've done it throughout. In 2006, I was with Coach Dungy. They won the Super Bowl. 2007, I was with Jack Del Rio. 2008, I actually did Coach Harbaugh here in Baltimore his first year. 2009, I had did with the Jets and Big Daddy Rex Ryan. 2010, I had did Mike Smith down in Atlanta. Their 13-3 year, I think it was, and they lost in the second round to the Packers that year. And then 2011, I did Uncle Hugh out in Oakland. 2012, I was in the hospital with blood clots and almost died, so I missed that year. 2013, I had did Coach John Fox, who I played for in Carolina when I left Baltimore, and Jack Del Rio was my defensive coordinator. So that was like, so I had did that in 13. 14, I had did Marvin out in Cincinnati. Took 15 off and did 16 also with Marvin, and then 17, my baby girl, you guys know, played softball.
Yeah.
So she played international for Puerto Rico, and then 18 was her senior year. So I kind of took off senior year of high school because that was like his last year of summer ball before he went to go play baseball. And then Aries, my baby girl, her senior year. So I didn't miss any of that stuff. And then moved them into college on those 2 years that I took off. And then 19, I kind of I did some scouting stuff, and then 20 was COVID. And then I ended up meeting Jim Nagy, who was the executive director. So for the listeners don't know, Jim has 6 Super Bowls. He was a part of New England guy, worked with Phil Savage, who obviously you guys know very well from being here.
Sure.
And then Phil was, and then Jim, who now runs the Senior Bowl, started a program actually I think it was 2020, 2021. And it was for former players, not necessarily minorities. So it was former players. So actually other former Raven, Adam Terry and I, we went to what he does in June called Scout School down in Mobile, Alabama, at the Senior Bowl headquarters. And basically it takes former players through the whole process, because a lot of times, and even this was my experience, a lot of former players don't really get on to the scouting side. I know we know Ozzie Newsome did, but, people don't know that Ozzie was actually a coach. Stan probably knows this because he's older than both of us. But Ozzie was actually a coach and a scout at first when he started with the then Browns, who are obviously are now Ravens.
Yep.
And then he kind of did both and transitioned over to, because Mr. Modell, God rest his soul, thought that Ozzie had more impact on being able to look at the guys that they draft. And that's when obviously Phil Savage and all those guys came over from Cleveland. And so it was just a great process. And then so it's, with my youngest finally graduating from Georgia Tech, her softball career and is over, I was like, well, I have nothing to do on my time. I sold a couple companies that I had started, so God has blessed me tremendously. And so then last year, the last 2 years, I kind of helped out with scouting linebackers. And then the more you learn and grow, because obviously that was the position I'm most comfortable with. And then this year, I was the Northeast area guy, and so they were like, what do you think about having a Northeast? And I was like, I don't really know. And it's obviously guys that are on the watch list. That Jim confers with teams, because obviously he had 4 Super Bowls in New England, and then he had 2 Super Bowls in Seattle after Jim went there. And then what happened with his situation was his family, his wife, who is actually from Mobile, was like, she was tired of him being on the road all the time. And Phil Savage, as you guys know, was transitioning back into the NFL as special consultant
Jets,
with
yeah.
our own Joe Douglas, who's the general manager with the New York Jets. So with Phil, transitioning back into the league, it was a great opportunity. And so it kind of worked out that Jim and his wife's family being from Mobile, he was able to come back and bring on the expertise and do those things. And Jim 100% will be back in NFL. It's just, I know he's had interviews out there before for high-ranking positions. So it was a great opportunity for me to kind of, with the extra time that I have on my hands now, to kind of take what I've done with the coaching and the scouting. And so with all those internships tied together, I've always been connected, as you guys know from our years of talking, and me doing media to help me be better in the media, because I'm on the ground. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all these internships. I'm in behind it. I'm coaching linebackers. And, when I was at all these places, I would also go spend time in the scouting department, because I had nothing else to do but kind of pick the brains and learn from people. So, a lot of times people say, I'm mid-40s, now, so maybe a little bit late to the game. But that's how I got started in this. And so, helped out the Senior Bowl. And then there's some guys, that I found here in the Northeast, a couple kids out of Shepherd University. Yes, Division II Shepherd. They have a quarterback, Tyson Badgett, who is going to get drafted, and an offensive lineman, Joey Fisher, that I was out there watching Tyson in September, and I saw this lineman. So I texted Jim, and I was like, this dude looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones. And so he's the right tackle, but he'll be a guard in the league. And so, Lord willing, Joey gets drafted as well. It'd be a great story. Obviously, Shepherd University and Coach, McCock has done a great job out there at the Division II school. And then I have a wide receiver at Princeton, Andre Yosivas, that, kind of people are like, he's a Princeton kid, but, he's 6'2", 217 pounds, and he's going to run a 4.3 here out in Indy the next couple of days. He's NCAA track guy. So, and there's a bunch of guys. So I had University of Maryland. So we got, there's obviously a ton of talent there. And then ultimately through that, a couple NFL teams, which I can't name, but none being our hometown Ravens, had asked me to kind of consult and, if I saw certain things. So it's kind of transitioned to be a fun little thing to do now that, I've gotten out of the business world. I still have a couple business interests, but, and having the free time and no more kids doing sports. So
Brad,
here I am, B-Jack, the scout.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let me just jump in. Is Jim Nagy, by the way, is he related to Matt Nagy?
No, he is not. A lot of people get that. I mean, it's pretty funny. We always thought the same thing, but no. As of what we've been told, and my own talking with Jim, he is not related to Matt.
Now, my other question is: so, is the game plan? Is this just something fun for you to do now, or are you really looking at trying to be a scout with the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing fun to do. There's work involved. I mean, I probably went to 11, 12 weekends. I was at a game. I went to some schools, obviously, the Towson had to go watch practice because you just don't have time to go to all those games. There's a couple players that, at Bowie and Howard. It's not, it's good because you have your own freedom. So, that's the part right now. You have your freedom. I still have the ability to do things that I want to do and travel around and go see all my kids, which I do all the time, like throughout the week and stuff. And then, kind of tied up where, I had to do some cross scouting. So, I had Ohio State and Penn State. Penn State was one of my schools, but I was able to go to the Ohio State Penn State game to do a cross on Ohio State kids, just to get another set of eyes on those guys. So, it's fun, but it is work. And so it's, I wouldn't say it's just something fun to do. I've always had a keen eye from what coaches and people in the business have said. And, I've had conversations with Ozzie in the past. Bill Polian, when I had helped out at Indianapolis, I called him and was like, this guy's got major talent. But at that time, it was more important for me to be a father and raise my kids and be home every day because, unfortunately, if you're on the college side of scouting, you're on the road 200 days a year, 150 to 200 days a year. If you're on the pro side and you're in the building, when the lights are on, you're in the building. So it's kind of like, you're there as long as all the coaches are there. And we all know coaches spend a tremendous amount of time away from their families. And, that's always was an interest, but also like looking at these new knuckleheads nowadays and how, this, and I've said this before on television, radio, and I've probably talked to you guys, that the NFL has transitioned, in my opinion, away from the league of achievement and accomplishments to entitlement. So right now you see the players that feel they're entitled to, paydays. They're entitled to all of these things that haven't been earned. And so, talking with current coaches out in Indianapolis here, there's just, there is that feel. And then it's trickled down to the collegiate level because now college coaches, because of the whole NILs, and I firmly think players should get paid, but the NCAA has completely dropped the ball on that. That's another discussion for another show with you guys.
We could do another 6 hours on that.
Yeah, that the whole NIL has now trickled down, and it's made it not fun for college coaches because it's more transactional now. And then, of course, you can spend all this time recruiting a kid, and the kid comes, and the kid's not happy. Because, like I tell my own kids when I talk to young high school kids now, that they're the Amazon generation. They want to order it today and get it tomorrow. They don't understand that there is a process. You may have to sit for 1 or 2 years and get better, get stronger, and do all these things to learn the game. And versus they want to come in and get it right now because social media has hyped up their heads, and you see a lot of that's transitioned to the pro side where guys are they're more worried about themselves and their brand, which is fine, than the success of the team. And unfortunately, that is causing a little bit of a rift, as you see, between, this new generation of guys and the teams and the players that are still team related. It's the reason why they're the ones, playing at the end of the season and hoisting Lombardi trophies.
Brad Jackson, former Ravens linebacker, now a scout for the Senior Bowl. He's with us here on GCR. All right, Brad, so, the Ravens need wide receivers again. Who would have thought? We've never had that conversation, you and I, before. It's a new thing. So give me a couple of names. Tell me who it is that you were watching, that you guys maybe had down there in Mobile. Give me somebody. We're desperate again, Brad.
I think that, wide receiver, is one of the needs, but I think there are some other needs. But, you can talk about, there's the Ronnie Bell we had down in Mobile from Michigan, some of the big names. Like I said, the kid Andre Yosivas, I really love, from Princeton, 6'2", 217. He's, NCAA heptathlon champion twice. That means he's running away from dudes with Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee on their jerseys. He had the fastest 60-meter indoor last year in the nation, and he's at Princeton. And so he's another interesting, super smart guy from Hawaii. But there's a number of guys that just which direction do the Ravens go? Do they look to try to get Elijah Higgins from Stanford, who can kind of be what Darren Waller we hoped he would be, prior to his off the field struggles that he's now corrected to be a phenomenal player out with the Raiders in Vegas. But there are a number of wide receivers. I mean, they are a ton. Jaden Reed's obviously. So the Trey Palmers from Nebraska. I know we drafted Chris Moore several years back. I'm partisan to my Bearcats. But Trey Tucker is a kid that can help out on special teams, as a kick returner, and he may run low 4.3s out of the combine. So if the Ravens want to go little and fast, I mean, there's a ton of guys that they can go. Do they want to go big? And it's just a matter of where they try to fit in. I saw the whole back and forth yesterday. Obviously, it was the big news out here in Indianapolis with Rashad Bateman and going at Eric DaCosta, and it's just kind of funny, and it's funny. I was talking with someone from another team, and they were like, "Man, there's a lot of noise with the Ravens this offseason. We never usually hear this much noise, like publicly. We have Lamar's contract situation, and then." Obviously, you had to change the coordinators, and then they fired the strength coach, and then the grades come out from the National Football League Players Association, where the Ravens were kind of middle of the road, and I think that shocked some people, as well. Like, and then, they got 5 draft picks. You have a first, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth. Will the Ravens do something and try to accumulate more draft picks? We know Eric has been able to do that in the past, which could potentially help them. If someone is not sitting there at 22, or maybe they try to move up. So it's just a matter of trying to get Lamar's contract, because like Eric said, Lamar's contract kind of dictates how they're going to be able to go in free agency.
Yep.
And so we'll know that here on March 7th, when it's time for them to franchise people. And so that could hinder the Ravens in what they want to do for agency as far as bringing wide receivers. So, the fact that, Bateman took it, way out to left field when in my opinion, I saw Eric saying that in the 27, 28 years as a franchise, we have done bad. I mean, that has probably been the Achilles heel for all the great players that Ozzie and EDC have brought in here. The wide receiver position, we've never had a wide receiver that has made it to their second contract with us. That's unfortunate. Torrey Smith was probably one of the better ones as a second-round pick. But, obviously his value was not what the Ravens thought, and obviously that was a smart move, because for all that Torrey did and, all the great things that he's continued to do post his career, kind of like that contract that he got with San Francisco, was kind of like, the Ravens were smart and not to put that money out there because the production wasn't there. And that's an unfortunate side of it. And I've been on that side as a player and now being on this side of it. So, they don't have an all-pro wide receiver. So, Bateman kind of took it, and got in his feelings about it, which he apologized for. But I thought it was Eric owning it up and saying, we're going to keep swinging, but we have not, for whatever reason, hit on a wide receiver when we've hit on linebackers, and we've hit on O-linemen, and we've hit on safeties, and we've hit on corners, and we've hit on linebackers, obviously. We've hit on defensive linemen, with Haloti and Suggs, and the list goes on and on. Obviously, 52, the greatest to ever do it, and the Sharpers and the Bullwares and the, Chris McAllisters and the Dwayne Starks and the Jimmy Smiths and the, it looks like Kyle Hampton's going to be a great one, but let's not crown him yet. But we have Ed Reed, and we had Kim Herring. So these were, all the guys that were homegrown safety that were drafted that were very good players. And that list goes all the way back. So in the offensive line, I mean, you can name it, the Yondas and, the Jeff Mitchells, back to the early eras, and obviously Jonathan Ogden and, running backs, Jamal Lewis. So we've prayed Joe Flacco won a championship here. Probably some of the other quarterbacks were, they missed on, but Joe Flacco was a great player and won a Super Bowl. So you can't discount that. But the one position that the Ravens have never, tight end, let's not forget tight end with Heap and obviously Mark Andrews is a phenomenal player. So,
don't leave Dennis Pitta out. Don't leave Dennis Pitta out.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to, I was saying DP, but in my mind, Dennis Pitta. But that's what I'm saying. So when you look at every position, the Ravens have always had a Pro Bowl player, an All-Pro player, and even some guys that are wearing gold jackets and in the Ring of Honor. we've never had one for whatever reason. I guess that's the curse of the football gods. Up to this point, there hasn't been a wide receiver, and we've drafted a ton first round. I mean, we all know that. We drafted a ton top 4 rounds. Like, those are guys that you expect to transition, when you have, even though he's a nutcase, Antonio Brown, who's a 5th, 6th round pick. A lot of these teams, Pittsburgh, they probably hit on Pickens, the 2nd round pick from Georgia, which I really thought and hoped the Ravens had drafted last year. And so you're looking at all these other wide receivers at other places that teams have hit on that have not even been like the 1st or 2nd rounder, that may have been a 3rd, 4th, 5th rounder. And so that's one of the things that I thought Eric was saying openly and honestly, is that they've got to try to fix, and they're just going to keep hammering at it till they figure it out. And so it wasn't a slight on the wide receiver core.
Right.
Unfortunately, I guess Bateman took it at that, but that's this day and age where a lot of these players get in their feelings if they feel like they're attacked. But at the end of the day, you have to be on the field and be productive. And I think I like Bateman coming out. I think he's a good player, but you've been on the field for 11 games, young fella. Like, you got to kind of pump your brakes here and be productive.
Hey, Brad, we're coming up on a break. I got one last question for you. You've mentioned the University of Maryland. How good is the talent base that Loxley is starting to have down there?
It's phenomenal. I mean, Jalen Duncan, the left tackle, is probably going to go 1st, 2nd round. Ja'Cory Bennett, a corner. I mean, they have another corner that probably may go 1st round as well. The wide receivers, Demas, Copeland, and Jarrett, are phenomenal. I mean, he's done an excellent job of accumulating talent. Now the only thing they have to do is figure out how to make that talent work for them to win games and do better in the Big Ten. I mean, that's the thing. You see all this talent, you're like, where are the wins? Where are the big bowl games? But Coach Loxley has done an excellent job of accumulating talent, and I didn't expect it to be any less than that. Now they just have to figure out a way of turning that into them being a real force in the Big Ten and winning football games on Saturdays in the fall.
Well, we look forward to there being much more of that. Man, I realized it's been a while, dude. We need to do this again more often, man. That guy, once we get you going, we could do this literally for 6 hours. I know you've kind of abandoned Twitter at this point, right? Like, you're pretty much off of it now, right?
Yeah, well, I got shadow banned for liking a tweet, from like a couple years ago when the first act was put in place, and I thought it was a good thing with criminal justice reform, and I guess the Twitter police didn't like it, and then they took that account. So I still have my other account. It's the real and true BJack50. But I do not do as much on it. I was just a big softball dad and girl dad.
Yeah,
so if it's not with that, and then it's some football stuff, but most importantly, I mean, I just don't have time for all the social media nonsense.
Bro, I get that. I'm jealous, if I'm being honest with you. And honestly, I loved watching you being out with your daughter, bro, is one of my favorite things to do. Now, you're not going to believe this, but I got 2 boys now, which is a weird world for me. And it was awesome. It was awesome to see how you just sort of became full-time softball dad, man. It was so cool the way that you were doing that. Brad, love
it. I still love it. I appreciate you guys having me, man. God bless. I know I'll see you guys in the streets when I'm back in Baltimore.
No question.
Stay out of trouble.
All right,
Thanks,
buddy.
Brad.
We'll talk soon. Brad Jackson. I forgot. I totally forgot.
What?
You get Brad going. You get him going. It's on me. I completely forgot. You just get him going. He goes.
He goes.
I did a show with Brad.
Like Energizer Bunny.
I did a show with Brad one season, and somebody would say, "What happens if the guest doesn't show up?" And we would always joke, like, that's not going to be a problem. It's not. Brad's just going to, we're good. We got it. Love Brad. That's cool that he's got the new gig with the Senior Bowl. It's an awesome step for him in his career. All right, I do want to get back into the Ravens stuff from yesterday. I got an interesting question from Dave, and I want to dive into this next, Stan. Dave says, Glenn, well, I don't think this leads to John Harbaugh getting fired. I do wonder if what we learned this week is the reputation that we have always believed the Ravens to have as a franchise isn't the case any longer. And let's just talk about that when we come back in, all right? That'll be the next topic that we discuss. Stan the Fan Charles is here. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC is here to help. With funding available for short-term career programs, you can get back on your feet in no time. Starting this March, become a certified apartment maintenance technician to secure your future. CCBC's program offers hands-on training and prepares you for a rewarding career in the growing field of property management. Don't wait any longer. Call 443-840-2222 or online at ccbcmd.edu for more details. CCBC Apartment Maintenance Technician. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available, like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything. I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
Baseball betting is here. Bet as little as $20 with Caesars and get a $100 instant bonus bet credit, along with other great incentives and promos when you sign up at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball futures bets, season specials, and player award bets are already live in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now for your shot at winning big. Stan the Fan Charles is here on a Friday edition of the program. Stan, that's the question from Dave, and it's something that I feel like has been percolating in the last 24 hours. This is not going to be, again, John Harbaugh's not getting fired. The Ravens aren't going to suddenly walk in and say, everything is a disaster, let's rip it all up. But do you think that this was a serious hit for the reputation of the organization, what's come out over the course of the last 48 hours?
I just think the totality of how they finished again, the dragging on of the Lamar situation, and now this situation with the criticism of Steve Saunders. And by the way, I totally agree that that's really got to be a byproduct of the coach. You know, the way they, trust me, the strength and conditioning coach doesn't.
He's not going rogue.
He's not going rogue
right.
on NFL players without the coach's agreement on it. You know, and as I alluded to, and I'm not making light of the death of the player at the University of Maryland, but that was sort of the mindset that DJ Durkin had. Was I wanted a strong boy as my strength and conditioning
Jordan
coach.
McNair, of course, passing away a couple years ago.
Yeah. So I would say that the reputation, they've been probably knocked back to reality. You know.
Okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I had a couple. You know, our friend Ken Zales has always been strongly anti-John Harbaugh. He's been very opposed to like the power that John Harbaugh has sort of taken on within the organization, and you wonder if this provides the opportunity for the rest of the organization. Again, when we say those words, the problem is it's a very new team president, Sashi Brown, someone who hasn't been here for a very long time. So
he
I
hasn't flexed.
I don't know, and I don't know yet that Sashi Brown is in a position where he'd be comfortable to feel like he could flex muscle in that role. I would think that's the closest thing to representing Steve Bisciotti outside of it being Steve Bisciotti. So when I say this thing, it really does, to me, come down to one thing. Is Steve Bisciotti willing to step in, who has always been the type to say, I let my people do their things? What makes what I feel is good ownership is getting out of the way, letting them make their decisions. Is it the moment where Steve Bisciotti sits down and says, look, man, you're going to be here. You're my guy. You know that. But I've got to listen to these guys. I've got to hear what it is they're saying, and I've got to make sure we're not running the risk of you continuing to just do the exact same things with a different guy as your strength coach moving forward.
You know, the Steve Bisciotti I used to know, his mantra was sort of I forget the exact one word. Was it accelerate or speed up the inevitable? And to me, this is to me starting to feel inevitable at some point that Harbaugh is going to go, and that they're not speeding up the inevitable. They're sort of
dragging it out.
He's chosen to ride it out, and it's interesting that in a prior incarnation, Steve Bisciotti seemed like the type of owner that would have come in and fixed this Lamar situation because he's the one guy that can do it.
Right.
But he's just hands off, letting my people run the show. And I don't know that that's helped the team and its reputation.
I guess the question becomes, what is the identity of the Baltimore Ravens at this point, right? Like, if you're not certain that Lamar Jackson is going to be your quarterback, if
there's just tremendous uncertainty right now within the organization.
I remember having this feeling, Stan, the day after Ray Lewis announced his retirement. I remember, because we was doing 4 hours in the afternoon at that point, and so you had to come up with things for 4 hours. I remember deciding that next day I was going to say, and this is before, of course, the Ravens ended up winning that Super Bowl, right? What is post-Ray Lewis? What are the Baltimore Ravens? Because we had elevated them as an organization to be a model organization, a picture of stability, all of these things. But my question was, but did we really do that because they had an exceptional, world-changing, Hall of Fame player and leader within the organization? And post-Ray Lewis, do we know that that's what the Baltimore Ravens are, or that they were more of a reflection of, hey, when you have this type of central figure here, it kind of lifts everything else up in the process? For a few years, there was a bit of a dip, right? Like, there was a bit of a, not that they were doing things terribly or poorly, but the Ray Rice thing was clearly a bad look for the Baltimore Ravens, and then they just weren't winning football games. And Lamar Jackson kind of provided them a new identity, right? They were the exciting team because Lamar Jackson was there. If at this point you said to me, who are the Baltimore Ravens, I still think they're in a much better position than, again, the worst teams in the Commanders, the Cardinals, you name it. I don't know that they're in a better position than the Jaguars, but the Jaguars have their quarterback.
We don't have rats.
there is that, and I do appreciate that, but I think most people like the head coach and quarterback situation that they have in Jacksonville at the moment.
I like that.
And think that's a pretty good combination to move forward with and feel very strongly about your chances of doing something with moving forward. In Baltimore, I don't know.
It kind of feels like and I don't want to get into a Gary Williams thing, because I think you know the history of my relationship with Gary. I've grown to respect what he accomplished a lot more in talking to him since his retirement. But it kind of feels like the years after he won the championship, they just sort of, there was a malaise. There was nothing driving them anymore.
With the exception of the Gravis. Like the Gravis years mattered, right? And it felt like there was something going there. And if they don't get buzzer beatered by Corey Lucius against Michigan State, who knows what that team does, right? Like, I understand exactly what you're – well, I guess there's two things, except for winning the ACC tournament in 04, because that was a big deal. But that was a flash in the pan.
That was the Gilchrist year?
It was the Gilchrist year. Remember, they were a 6 seed, and they weren't even that good. They just happened to, win 3 games in 3 days and win a tournament in the process. And then the Graves-Vasquez years. Yes, but for the most part, they were nondescript.
Yeah.
They were
That's how I feel the Ravens are right now. They're kind of nondescript to me.
I feel like internally, and again, I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday, internally, there's a lot of angst. There was a lot of angst from the players about the Steve Saunders thing, but the more the guys that I talked to, they were like, we feel like we're going to be okay. Like, we know what we need to do as players. Yes, it's annoying. We don't like dealing with it, but we think we're going to be okay outside of the guys that blamed him for their injuries. There is a lot more angst internally about the Lamar situation amongst players than I think
players on the team.
Yes.
Yeah, that they wanted cleared up.
Correct.
In favor of Lamar.
Correct. And it's funny because people will say, well, isn't it better for the other players if one player's not soaking up that much of the cap? Doesn't it mean they can get more money? Well, they see it as we're not going to be as good. And when your team isn't as good, you don't look as valuable in the process. Brad Jackson is a great example of this. When the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2000, every player on that defense suddenly became drastically
attractive.
Every single one of them was in demand, to the point of it being the backup linebackers that were really special teams guys. Every single one of them ended up making money because of it, because everybody looks at the teams that are good and says, we want a piece of that. We want those guys. That's the guys, after the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2012, Paul Kruger cashed in on it. Guys that weren't exceptional football players, but that were part of a Super Bowl championship team, turned around and cashed in on being a part of a Super Bowl championship team. The players feel as though they are in a better position when they have a quarterback. And I felt that angst to a man in conversations that I had with them. Like, they want to know the answer to the Lamar Jackson question because they don't want to go through this thing sort of taking a dip. And I think that does hang over the organization as a whole. I don't know how much fun it is right now to be over there with this many questions sort of lingering over you as a franchise. I guess there's worse problems to have. Again, they don't have rats. They got that going for them, which is nice.
And they're not charging their players for food.
Yes, they're not charging for food, so that happens. We brought up Maryland basketball. Obviously, that was disappointing on Wednesday night. Does this start to linger with you at all? And as exciting as this year has been, as much as I think every single one of us is on board with Kevin Willard and what he's done and this, does the road thing linger with you, like, in a way that next year you're going to be thinking about it?
No, it's not sticking with me at all because I watched Kevin Willard when he brought in these 3 players, Young, Don Carey, and who's the third one? He brought in 3 players that transferred.
Ian Martinez, is that?
No, the players he played. Carey is 0.
Carey is 0. Yeah, he's the Georgetown
3
transfer.
Players he signed, but anyway, the point is he threw this team.
A million was a transfer too.
He threw this team together very quickly and with not. I won't say a lot of thought. Kevin's a thoughtful coach, but I think given sort of the the longer haul of recruiting, I think he's going to get a higher level of talent than is on this team.
You think
right
the
now.
road? It's just so dramatic, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
I would
dramatic.
expect a team to be better at home than on the road. Of course,
Yeah,
I would expect a team
right.
to be better at home on the road. But they haven't beaten one team that is even semi-competent
I know.
on the road this season.
I mean,
That's
these last two, Nebraska and
And
this
Ohio
one,
State,
Ohio
yeah.
State. But I give an awful lot of credit to those coaches that night that they just had their team up a little bit more than Maryland.
Yeah,
It's not like they played horrible games.
no, they didn't.
You know,
I don't know. They were not that competitive the other night against Ohio State, and like they were pretty much, and they fell behind 10-0. And it's the slow starts.
It's the slow starts. Yeah, that's
on the
what I was
road.
gonna
I
say.
think that stand out. Like it's just
Consistently starting slow is,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm just not worried about it long haul. Get back to me like next March.
Yeah, and if they go through another
if they
miserable
go
season on the
0-10,
road, then we're
yeah,
going to have
right.
another lengthy conversation
Right,
about whether
right.
there's a problem with Kevin Willard as a coach on the road.
I think within 1 or 2 years, he's going to have Maryland back to where it was.
Well,
I
we
really
had
do.
Randolph Childress
Yeah.
on the other day, and he was very excited about that. Randolph Childress, of course, famously played at the Baltimore Arena in '95 in the NCAA tournament, which we hope we could get back here now with a new building. But he said the same thing. Like, I think it's going to happen quickly. I think that that's where this is going to go. And for the most part, that's the way that I've felt this season is when you've got nothing, if this is what you're able to do with it, you know, imagine the sky is the limit.
Well, they didn't get lucky the other night with Penn State winning that last that end of that game with Northwestern, because now Penn State is playing for something on Sunday. You know,
Jahari Long is also he's a Seton Hall transfer. So
yeah,
he
but
came
he's
over.
barely played this season.
but
Like,
he was the
To
third
Stan's
guy.
point,
He was the
yeah,
third guy.
yeah. Look, I'm not. It's when I say this, I'm not suggesting that it's. I just think it's something I'm going to file away. Like I think going into next year, I'm going to be thinking about like, okay, they got to prove that was just an anomaly. It was just a first year, not enough talent. Weird year in the Big Ten where everybody was about the same. Like they have to prove that next year.
I will tell you one thing. I used to think the ACC was a tough conference.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten is just—it's remarkable. There's just really no really horrid teams in the conference.
I guess the question would become: is that everybody's good or everybody's mediocre? Right? Like
I think everybody. I will say there's a great deal of parity, whichever way
Yeah.
that parity is. It's just incredible, and it figures to get even tougher when UCLA and USC get
sure,
there.
just making those trips is going to make it
Yeah,
much
well,
more difficult.
I mean, you're having like Ohio State's 4-14 in the
Yes, they're-
conference, and they have sellouts.
and they just won back-to-back games against
Yeah.
Illinois and Maryland,
Yeah.
who are two of the good teams
Right.
in the Big Ten. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Holtman's a good coach.
there's no question. Like, I guess their question there is why was it so bad to begin with, right? Like, they think they've got enough talent that it never should have bottomed out the way that it did. Unfortunately, bad news locally last night on the college hoops front. Not stunning that Loyola lost to Colgate. Colgate is a monster within the Patriot League, an overwhelming favorite, but a real stunner in Annapolis last night where Navy was knocked out of the Patriot League tournament, the number 2 seed in the league, knocked out by American, who had just had to play 2 nights earlier in a play-in game, goes into Annapolis. Obviously not a lengthy trip for them, but still that was quite surprising. And Navy gets knocked out last night. So 2 teams whose season has come to an end. By the way, did you see what happened with your guy who was going for the scoring record last night?
Yes.
Yeah,
he
3 points.
Yep. He needed 3 points to tie.
3 points short of Pete Maravich. So Antoine Davis is his name, right?
Yes.
From Detroit.
Father's the coach of Detroit Mercury.
Yeah, Detroit Mercy, yeah.
Mercy.
Finished 3 points short. Now I guess there's talk that they could try to buy their way into one of the
CBI or the NIT.
Yeah, I don't think the NIT is going to happen.
Right, yeah.
But that they could try to buy their way into one of those tournaments in order to get him another game, to give him another shot at breaking the all-time scoring record in college basketball. 3 points. 3 points short of getting the record.
Somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody tweeted out, they were like, he needs 26 points to break the record, and if he wants to average the same amount of points that Pete Maravich averaged during his 84 game career, he would need 2,600 points or something.
So you're saying he didn't get that? He's saying he came up just a bit short of that number?
How many? What's the difference in the number of games?
Pete Maravich was in the 80s. Antoine Davis has played in over 140.
Yeah,
games.
because he got the entire extra season for
really
COVID.
Important to get those extra 3 points. It's to still be humiliated in obtaining that record.
I mean, I don't know what else Antoine. I get why it's a big deal for Detroit Mercy. I get why it's a big deal for all of them. Coppin beat Morgan last night on the road, 77-65. So that was kind of interesting as they get ready for the MEAC tournament next week. Obviously, Towson plays in the CA quarterfinals on Sunday night. UMBC hosting an America East quarterfinal Saturday afternoon against Binghamton. That's what's at stake. And the Maryland women play in the Big Ten Women's Tournament tonight at 9:30. In fact, I'll lay some more of that out here in Totally Tubular in a minute.
What time is the UMBC game?
I think it's at 1 o'clock tomorrow, if I remember correctly. It's a Saturday afternoon game as they take on Binghamton. So that's that's sort of the way that things look. And speaking of the local front, you had Towson football coach on last night.
Yeah, I had Pete Shinnick on last night. Gary Stein ghosted me at the last minute. He had a
bitch.
Had a conflict. Yeah.
No, you know what?
Not a good guy.
No, he's out. He's out.
He's not a good.
He's
guy.
out.
Can Griffin do that?
We need to look into that. Yeah. It's not acceptable. Who does he think he is?
Yeah.
I would never leave you out to dry like that, Stan.
What kind of conflict was it, by the way? I got a lot of questions now.
Yeah.
I got to get on that guy's ass. But you had a wonderful conversation.
Good conversation.
I would say maybe even better.
That's one way to look at it.
Maybe even better.
Yeah. But I actually had to study.
Right.
Because I couldn't depend upon me being able to carry 30 minutes without looing at some things. We had an interesting conversation on his football team.
Very cool. So you can find that right now.
His job, why it was attractive to him.
Sure. Yeah. You can find that right now, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com/video, or YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. We'll come back in. We'll get a tidbit. We'll get tubular. We will wind down for a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC has great news for you. We have funding available for short-term career programs like project management starting this March. Gain valuable skills to advance your career and get back on track. With CCBC's project management program, you'll learn how to effectively plan, organize, and execute projects. This is your chance to make a positive change in life. Contact us at 443-840-2222 or online ccbcmd.edu for more information. CCBC Project Management. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the Bat-Around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Happy to have CCBC on board. I wish I could find that audio from yesterday. I was doing some reads yesterday. I don't know if it's still up on there. I was doing some reads yesterday, and I'm telling you, I started losing my mind trying to say in a sentence, for short term. But again, when you say
for short term. Short term.
You did it. You did it.
Short term. For short term.
It's
for short term.
Yeah, but when you're trying to do it in a sentence.
Yeah.
So I wish let me see if I can pull up the script. Hang on a second. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare.
Because we're saying it now, like just as it's starting a sentence.
The sentence is CCBC has funding available for. I did it again for CCBC has funding available for short-term career programs. Now I've said it about 1 billion times in the last 24 hours, so I finally gotten there. But the first 100 times
you were
for short term. For short term.
For short term.
For sure.
Dude, it is really, really, and who knew?
For short term.
Yeah,
short term.
Like it just took me
for
a very long time.
CCBC has for short term.
There's a lot of effort that has to be put in.
You could have just gone really slow and then just speed it up afterwards.
You really do. You really have.
For short.
It was a show. And during the break, it
hurts your tongue.
I'm going to not fall asleep tonight, and that's what I'm going to be
just keep thinking about that. You could use it as a party favor. Try to get, write it down and try to get people to attempt to say it and create tongue ties out of it. It was
I wonder if you could win bets on it.
Oh, I bet you can't. I bet you can't read this sentence. I'll give you $10. You give me 20 if you get it wrong.
My friend is a Steelers fan. He's sending me bets. He's like, Anthony Richardson will be drafted by the Ravens, and he's sending me his bet slips of him making bets that the Ravens are going to draft.
Okay.
Anthony Richardson.
I mean, they could.
They bother me.
They could. They could do it, frankly, whether or not Lamar Jackson is on the team this season.
Mel Kiper has Joey Porter Jr. back in Pittsburgh.
Not
back in Pittsburgh, but in Pittsburgh.
So Joey Porter Jr. met with the media in Indianapolis yesterday and was asked about the possibility of being the Ravens. And he, of course, trying to be he's like, it was really my dad's thing, not my telling you, it would be the greatest news. It would just be so wonderful. All of us in this business would high five everyone if we could get about a week's worth of content about the idea of Joey. Imagine me having to track down Joey Porter Sr. for an interview. Can get Todd Heap's opinion about it. We could go a long way with that. That would be gold content-wise if it worked out that way. All right, today's show is also brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. Nothing short-term about the Baltimore County Police Department. If you have a passion for service and you want a career for life, they are looking for you, and they have positions available. Cadet salary started over $32,000 a year. Entry-level officers over $60,000, and for lateral officers, $64,000 a year, with $10,000 signing bonuses available for entry-level and lateral officers, plus specialization opportunities and advancement opportunities available within the Baltimore County Police Department. I passed the agility test with flying colors, I might add. You can do it too.
They call you the agility.
The agilitist. I am Mr. Agilit. That's who I am.
Agilit.
No, you're Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, no, that's Brock Purdy, and it worked out all right for him. I am Mr. Agilit. You can pass the test too. I believe in you. I know that that's the case. It seems daunting, but you can do it. And you can go see the video on our YouTube page if you want to see what it is that you have to do. It's a lot. But
do they have a test that makes you say for sure?
They better not, or else I am out. Zero chance. They hand me the script and I say, Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys having me out. Best of luck in your search. No, you don't have to be able to do that.
Let me know when the physical. Yeah, let me know when the physical tests are.
Yeah, I passed the agility. I kicked ass.
Yep.
I beat up a
Everything's
couple
good.
people.
And then they said, "Can you say this sentence?" And I said, "I sure can't." But I appreciate it. It's been good to have you. Anyway, the Baltimore County Police Department is looking for you. Join BaltimoreCountyPD.com is the website. Or if you've got more questions, call them. 410-887-5542. With that in mind, there are two other things from this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know our friend Cordell Woodland from over at 105.7.
Sure.
Cordell Woodland. Apparently it's
Good dude.
Oh,
Good
great dude. Woodland. Woodland. Like two words put together.
Not Woodley.
Not Woodland. I've always said it Woodland. Like, and I couldn't tell if it was a Baltimore thing.
So
or
wait a minute, it's two words.
it's Woodland.
Like Simeon Woods Richardson, the baseball.
It's not
pitcher.
hyphenated though. It's not.
Okay.
It's one word. It's just you pronounce both parts. Woodland, not Woodland. Okay. That was a tough one for me this week. I had to learn that, right? Because I like getting people's names right. I don't want to get them wrong.
I never paid much attention to
Yeah,
that
you
in
never
my
cared
career.
about that, right? That's the other. Are you familiar with what the most popular convenience store is in the state of Iowa?
It's not Royal Farms?
It's not. We, of course, love Royal Farms, but I would say the Royal Farms of Iowa.
God, for some reason I'm drawing that this is something I've read recently. What is it?
So I, of course, like a lot of people, was mesmerized by this basketball game last Saturday, this Iowa-Michigan State basketball game, which was wild. And, of course, the moment where Fran McCaffrey is spending an entire timeout staring down an official, got a lot of play. I mean, it's a psychopath, right? And you just got a ton of play.
One of my favorite coaches.
I couldn't help but giggle because I looked over, and when everybody was sharing this picture of Fran McCaffrey like a psychopath, they also, on every courtside seat at Carver Hawkeye Arena, have an advertisement for the most popular convenience store in the state of Iowa. Please, if you would.
I see it.
Hey,
Come and Go.
KUM, Come and Go. And I wish there was an age. I wish that one day I could get to the point where I won't giggle, but every time, I will never be old enough. There will never be a day where I'm able to
come and go.
The old come and go, huh? Yeah,
that's one of Fran's favorite plays.
I bet it is.
The come and go.
You say to a young lady in high school, you say, "Hey, we could go out tonight. Maybe wander on down and come and go.
Come and go.
We could do that." God, I wish I was mature enough, but I am not. Let's get a Tid-bit. Tid-bit brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
So could you say that the come and go is a short term?
I would say it. Yes, it's a reason it's a convenience store. It's not. All right, they're there for a short.
It's for short-term stays.
For
short.
I don't want to do it. I'm going to embarrass myself. I don't want to do it. I can say your unique personality, no problem.
How about if we talk to the people that own Come and Go and give them the idea of calling for short term?
Again, when you just say it for short term, you're like, oh, that's easy. Put it in a sentence. Read the script and tell me what happens when you get to for short term.
That is funny.
For shirt.
Shirt.
I'm in here screaming. I'm like, it's not shirt, you idiot. It's short. Say it right. You're a professional. And by the way, it's 6 scripts. It's in every one of them.
For sure.
For short term.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Every single one of them. If you, I was this close.
If it wasn't
I was this close to going full Howard Hughes yesterday. I was this close to peeing in bottles.
Could record for short term
and then just cut and paste it into every single one. I nailed it on this one, and we're keeping that one. I should have thought about that. It would have been a much more pleasant experience than the afternoon I had. This was torture.
Then you would have been able to just come and go.
Yeah, correct. I could have. I don't know what it's like to be waterboarded, but what I went through yesterday, it felt
short.
It was worse.
It was worse than I would rather. If you had at least waterboarding gets over quickly. At least it only lasts for a little while and then it's done. This one was prolonged torture. It was a nightmare. Do the tidbit.
All right, so of course on this day, March 3rd, 1985, Kevin McHale, he set the Celtics team record for points in a game, 56. And he held that record for 9 days until Larry Bird dropped 60. About
Probably
a week and a half
knowing
later.
how much of an a-hole Larry Bird was, probably purposefully said, "I'm not going to let him have that record." Larry Bird was not in a basketball sense. Like Larry Bird was an a-hole when it came to everything about it being on a basketball floor. That doesn't surprise me one bit.
I saw this one going around earlier this week. It's a baseball one. So there have been 12. There's been like 24, 30 players that have done this all time, but they have 2,000 hits, 400 on-base percentage, and a 500 career slugging percentage across their career. 400 OBP, 500 slugging, and 2,000 career hits. They are all in the Hall of Fame, and except for three, there are 4 of them.
2,000 hits,
400 on base, 500
on base.
slugging. All of them are in the Hall of Fame.
24 of them?
I'm going to have you name the 12 that have done it since 1950. And there are 4 of them that are not in the Hall of Fame. And
4 that are in the Hall of Fame.
Not in the Hall of Fame.
4
all of them are in the Hall of Fame except for 4.
So how many are there total?
There's like 24 or something. I'm going to have you
Okay,
name. There's
you just
12.
want me
I
to
want you to
name-
name 12 since 1950.
Since
And
1950.
it's how many? It's 2,000 hits?
2,000
hits, 400 on base percentage, 500 slugging.
Yes.
Ted Williams.
Ted Williams was right before my cutoff, so
So
he has done this, but yeah,
everything
I cut
after,
him
and
off.
so there are 8 that are in the Hall of Fame,
Ted Williams
4
didn't
that are not.
retire until like 1961.
Oh really? Well, I did. I guess the way whatever
Their
the way
career
I
to make me look bad.
Yeah, right. If their careers began,
Stan Musial, yes, he's on my list.
Thank you. I'm trying to.
400 on
Well, there's
base percentage.
that's 400 on base
That's a
percentage is
hard one.
nuts. It's nuts. Ichiro.
Not Ichiro.
Slugging, right? Yeah, crap. Hey. 400 on base percentage, 500 slugging. Okay. Albert Pujols.
Not Albert Pujols.
On base.
Tony
I
Oliva?
can find out. Let's see.
Tony Oliva?
No, not Tony Oliva.
Joe Morgan.
Not Joe Morgan.
We might not get one. We might be in trouble
I
here.
got one.
Oh, yeah, you got me.
374.
I need some help.
Eddie Murray.
Shoot, I clicked away. No, not Eddie Murray.
Terrin Vavra.
So close. So close.
Maybe
He's-
one day.
He's right there. How about... I'm trying to think of who wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like that's the so it's got to be a steroid guy
Jim
or
Rice.
Not Jim Rice. There's a Jim.
Jeez, it whiz.
How about?
Did you say there is a Jim?
Yeah.
There is a Jim.
There's a Jim.
This one is a former Oriole.
Jim Thome?
Jim Thome.
Jim Thome had a 400 on base percentage.
Indeed, he did. 402.
Did Barry Bonds have a 400 on base percentage?
Yes.
All right, Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds is on the list,
All right,
not in the
okay.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, he's not in the Hall of Fame, so he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't really count.
No. He said there are 8
counts.
that are in the Hall of Fame,
Oh,
4 that
8.
aren't in the Hall
Yes.
of Fame. How about Frank Thomas?
Frank Thomas, indeed.
Good one.
Jeff Bagwell.
Jeff Bagwell, indeed.
I'm hot now, baby. Oh, I'm going to really roll the dice. Rafael Palmeiro.
Not Rafael.
Ah! I was feeling myself there for a second because I got a few. Todd Helton.
Todd Helton is on the list, not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Ryan Sandberg.
Not Ryan Stanberg.
How many Hall of Famers do we have?
We need 4 more.
4 more Hall of Famers.
Manny Ramirez.
Manny Ramirez has done this and is not in the Hall.
Yeah, like I don't think of those guys as like traditional on base percentage, but they just were getting walked so frequently that.
How about Sosa? Didn't he? He did not do it.
No,
didn't
not
have the
Sosa.
400 on base percent.
You have 2,000 hits.
Miguel Cabrera.
Not Miguel Cabrera.
That was a great guess, though.
Yeah, so there's one active player.
So the last one that's not in the Hall of Fame because they're active. Mike Trout's not at 2,000 hits yet. There's an active player that's gotten to 2,000 hits.
Arenado?
Not Nolan Arenado.
Are you counting Robbie Cano as being active?
No. It is not Robinson Cano.
Active player, 2,000 hits, 400 on.
Believe he spent his entire career with this one team.
Spent his entire career with one team, 2,000 hits. The 2000 hits part is really.
Is Ken Griffey one of them?
Not Ken Griffey. Not Ken Griffey.
Well, it's not Freddie Freeman because he's not with the same team any longer. Right. Joey Votto.
Joey Votto.
Joey Votto.
Gotta give you props.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have gotten that if he hadn't said the one-team
so
thing.
So we're missing 4 Hall of Famers.
One.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yes, yeah.
And Eddie Murray is not one of them.
Larry Walker.
Larry Walker is on the list in the Hall of Fame.
Not Vlad Guerrero, I'm going to assume.
Not Vlad Guerrero.
Man.
Not Scott Rowland.
Not Scott Rowland. There's a third baseman. I'm not sure
that's
that's going to help. But, yeah, there's a third baseman.
There's a third baseman, and yet you're
more
not,
modern.
You're not sure. Chipper Jones?
Chipper Jones, yes.
That's a good one. And you said there was a Jim in there.
Jim
was
Tomey.
that Jim
Yeah,
Tomey?
that was Jim Tomey.
Fred McGriff.
Not Fred McGriff.
He's in the Hall of Fame now, so.
There's a Mariner.
Well, I guess there's a Mariner. Edgar Martinez?
Edgar Martinez.
Glenn, you did a good
Yeah, but
job.
I'm only because he's giving me hints. Like, I can't take credit for this.
Kirby Puckett did.
Ooh, I like Kirby Puckett.
Not Kirby Puckett. This guy back at the beginning of where my cutoff is, 1950s.
Well, now I'm leaning on you, dog. Yeah. Brad Jackson called you old. I need you to come through for me.
Old. God. I'm just really.
Big slugger.
Lou Gehrig.
Not Lou Gehrig.
Big slugger.
Too old.
Jimmy Fox.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Not Jimmy Fox.
Too old.
Too old. Yeah.
Let's see if he's done it.
Give me something. Give us something.
Give it away. He's a Yankee.
Big slugger for the Yankees. Big slugger though for the Yankees. Reggie Jackson?
Not Reggie Jackson.
Not Mantle.
Mickey Mantle.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
yes.
You know what? Yeah, of course. What
Mickey
am I doing?
Mantle.
Of course it's Mickey Mantle. Of course that's the one. All right.
I guess
good.
he had a 400 on.
Yeah, that's
on base
that's a
percent.
pretty. You know what? I'm coming around. He was a good baseball player. I don't care what you say.
Lou Gehrig and Jimmy Fox on the list.
Yeah, but just before. I get whatever your arbitrary cutoff was because it didn't include Ted Williams. We'll never really know what your actual
because it was
cutoff
12,
was.
but I felt like that was a round number.
So I got Stan Musial.
Yes, you did. And you got Mickey.
You know, stands think alike. I think everybody knows that.
I like in the graphic that the person tweeted, Jim Tomey is wearing an Orioles hat.
Sure. Why not? Why not?
That's a good one.
Hey, gambling can be fun unless you're trying to guess or gamble whether or not you can name the people that were on the list, and then don't do that. You should set a limit. Stay within it. Remember, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 for free confidential services, or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org. Tubular for the weekend is brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Sign up with DraftKings. Bet $5, get $200 worth of free bets. Baseball betting is live. You can even bet on spring training if that's what you're into. You can also save your free bets. Like if you put in a bet right now, you can hold those free bets for college lacrosse. You can hold them for the NCAA tournament is coming up.
NFL draft.
Sure, the NFL draft, the Masters, whatever it is. You can hold those free bets. You don't have to use them immediately. But get signed up, PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Here's what's coming up this weekend. It's kind of all over the place because we start to get into a college tournament time, and so some things still to be determined. Tonight, Big Ten Women's Tournament, Illinois and Maryland in the quarterfinals at 9 o'clock. Maryland baseball playing Ole Miss again after they played a series against them last weekend. They're both participating in some event up in Minnesota, which is, why would you hold a baseball tournament in Minnesota in the beginning of March?
Yeah.
You know where they play it?
Where?
At the Vikings Stadium.
They're playing
indoors.
a
makeshift baseball field down at the football stadium in Minnesota. It's the weirdest thing, but that Maryland
and that is a
cool,
roof stadium.
Yeah, it's a dome. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess that's
man.
why you go to.
I don't know,
Minnesota?
but they're playing them today, and they're playing Vanderbilt tomorrow, and they're playing Hawaii on Sunday. It's very weird. Pirates Orioles radio all weekend. So tonight on WBAL 6 o'clock, Vince Velasquez and Kyle Gibson. Tomorrow on 98 Rock and WBAL, it's Braves Orioles at 1. We know Tyler Wells is on the mound for that one. We don't know who's pitching yet on Sunday for Orioles Rays at 1. Tomorrow, lots of lacrosse. Loyola hosts Lafayette at 1. Navy hosts Lehigh at noon. That's on ESPN+. Hopkins hosts St. Joseph's at 2, also on ESPN+. And then the America East Tournament, we referenced it earlier, UMBC hosting Binghamton at 1 on ESPN+. Maryland lacrosse hosts Notre Dame at 1. That's a pretty good one there.
That's a good game.
Very good game, absolutely. That's on Big Ten Network Plus. UMBC lacrosse taking on Towson tomorrow, so a nice local rivalry tomorrow at noon over at UMBC. And then, of course, tomorrow night, the big fight, John Jones taking on Cyril Gain. Is it Gain or Gane? I thought
Gane. It's Surreal Gane, I'm pretty
Surreal
sure. At
Gane.
least that's how I've always heard it, and I've said it.
All right. That's
Surreal
tomorrow
Gane.
night, 10 o'clock.
It's Come and Go.
It's coming. Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it.
More
With a K,
importantly-
though. With a K.
More importantly, Bo Nickel.
You're
opening up
very
the
excited
pay-per-view.
about that. John Jones, Surreal Gane.
Surreal Gane, yeah.
For the heavyweight championship tomorrow night at 10 on pay-per-view. I'm going to go to the Dave and Dusters in order to watch that fight tomorrow night. I'm actually going.
Nice.
I'm going outside to watch the fight tomorrow.
Oh.
On Sunday, Maryland Hoops against Penn State at noon on Big Ten Network. By the way, that means Rita and I will be on at 3 o'clock on Sunday on 105.7 The Fan. The Big Ten Women's Championship if Maryland gets there will be at 5 o'clock on Sunday on ESPN. Towson Open CA tournament play Sunday night at 8:30 against opponent to be determined on Flow Sports.
That's on CBS, right? Or is that's on Flow?
Yeah, I think only the semis and the championship I think are on. I know the championship is on CBS. I think the semis are on CBS as well. But the first round is definitely on Flow Sports, yes. And everything else, go to GlennClarkRadio.com. Non-sports, a big highlight this weekend right here in Baltimore.
No. Why don't I?
Oh, boy.
Let me double
SmackDown
check
is in
here.
DC.
Oh, Chris Rock, yes. The Netflix
Yes.
live special.
Yes.
On Saturday night.
What time is that?
I believe 10.
I will not
That
be
is
able to
the
watch
time
it
I
because I
wrote
will be
down.
watching the fights.
Yes. Yeah, Bo Nickel's going on right at that time.
Yeah, you
so.
keep going on about that. You're
Travis,
the one.
Travis Kelce's going to be hosting SNL.
I'll look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I'm definitely over all the nobody thought we could win stuff. Like, that was absurd. But
Kelsey Ballerini will be the musical guest. She's dating.
they're just doing like a Kelsey bit for the week. Is that what it was?
She's dating Annapolis native Chase Stokes from OBX, John B.
Didn't she used to date one of the guys from All Time Low too?
Did she? Kelsey
She might have a thing
Ballerini?
for Maryland. I don't know.
Oh,
It's very weird.
Of course, Last of Us on Sunday night. There's a show on Prime Video called Daisy Jones and the Six. It's like about a band. I can't tell if this is a true story or not, but it's on Prime Video and looks kind of intense. Looks kind of cool. That's the highlight. Those are the highlights for the weekend.
Yeah, obviously the Chris Rock special is live on Netflix from the Hippodrome, and if you want to get in, I think tickets are available for about $1,200 if you want to check it out. Chris Rock from the Hippodrome this week.
Tessa Thompson will be on Fallon for Creed 3.
Yes, for Creed 3, exactly. Which is available in theaters this weekend. I saw it last night.
Great review?
Functional, serviceable. I did a lot of nitpicking afterwards. It's not just that the Rocky character was gone. It was really the most detached they could make the film from Rocky. And it was still a good...
Still like a boxing film?
It was definitely still a boxing film. And it's still a good
I'm looking forward to
film.
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors was very good. In fact, I thought...
Good.
I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to give anything away.
I don't like no
I
things,
had...
but
There were 3 big fight scenes. 2 of them I had a problem with.
Okay.
So
how are the walkouts?
It's such a weird part for you to care about.
Those are great
It's
parts.
so
I
weird
think
for
the
you to care
walkouts
about
in
the walkouts.
the first 2 Creeds were great.
All right.
So.
All right. Stan the Fan.
Yes,
You
sir.
are headed down to Florida.
Yes, I am.
Are you doing a show on Monday night before you leave?
Yeah, Ross and I will be doing it. I think we're going to have Mike Devereaux
Cool.
with us, who just finished up.
He did some
a week,
instruction.
coaching instruction in the Orioles.
And then you will be down in Florida from Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday to Wednesday.
Tuesday to
7th
the following
to the
Wednesday.
15th.
And of course, you'll be on Twitter at Stan the Fan, sharing some
On
thoughts.
the 16th, the first day back, Ed Hale will join us.
So
Gary Stein and I, unless Gary ghosts me.
Yeah, what the hell is going on? We got to deal with that. But you'll be checking in with us too from spring training.
Hope to.
That's the plan. The plan is maybe call into the show, or maybe we do a video. We're going to do some things for Stan the Fan. Some dispatches from Stan the Fan from down in Sarasota is going to be part of the plan for while you're down there. Looking forward to seeing your thoughts on everybody and getting ready for the start of the season. We appreciate you coming in with us as always today.
Thank you.
Thanks to Brad Jackson. Thanks also to,
Tim
Hasselbeck, who checked in. That was a nice, pleasant surprise this morning. And Terrin Vavra as well from the Orioles. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Don't forget, the boys are on tomorrow morning, 10 to noon. Paul and Zach talking baseball. Stan will check in with them on the bat around, so join them for that. And then Rita and I, 3 to 6 on Sunday over on 105.7 The Fan. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, the Baltimore County Police Department, Problem Gambling, Royal Farms, the Costas Inn, CCBC, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. For short term.
For short term. For shirt.
Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go all the local hoops teams. Go all the local lacrosse teams. Duke sucks.